College Road, Nashik. Today we are going to discuss the very first chapter of the 11th biology, that is living world. Chapter ला सुरुवात करण्यापूर्वी we know that planet Earth is made up of two type of component, that is first one is biotic component and second one is abiotic component. सो बेसिकली अर्थ ही दोन प्रकारच्या कंपोनंटपासून बनलेली आहे. पहिला जो कंपोनंट आहे दॅट इज बायोटिक कंपोनंट अँड सेकंड जो कंपोनंट आहे दॅट इज अबायोटिक कंपोनंट्स. सो व्हॉट इज द मिनिंग ऑफ बायोटिक कंपोनंट्स? सो बायोटिक कंपोनंट्स मीन्स all living organism, that may be the plant, animal, bacteria, all living organism present on the earth constitute the biotic component of the earth, that is all living things present on the earth. And what is abiotic components? So whatever all non-living things, that may be the soil, water, minerals, airs, so all non-living things present on the earth constitute the abiotic component of the earth, that is soil, water, air and minerals constitute the abiotic component of the earth. And there is a continuous interaction between biotic component and abiotic components. मीन्स बायोटिक कंपोनंट अँड अबायोटिक कंपोनंट यामध्ये कंटिन्युअस इंटरॅक्शन चालू असते. और वी कॅन से दॅट ऑल बायोटिक कंपोनंट डिपेंड्स ऑन अबायोटिक कंपोनंट फॉर द सर्वायवल. जे पण बायोटिक कंपोनंट आहे और जे पण लिव्हिंग थिंग्स आहे त्या अबायोटिक कंपोनंटवरती डिपेंड्स आहे फॉर देअर सर्वायवल. और वी कॅन से दॅट बायोटिक कंपोनंट कांट सर्वाय विदाउट अबायोटिक कंपोनंट. सो दिस इज द ब्युटी ऑफ द लिव्हिंग वर्ल्ड. So the name of the chapter is living world. So what is mean by living? What is the meaning of living? So what is the simple definition of living? What is the simple definition of living? So any object which has life, we call it as living. असा कोणताही पदार्थ किंवा असा कोणताही ऑब्जेक्ट ज्यामध्ये लाईफ आहे त्याला आपण काय म्हणत असतो? लिव्हिंग. सो व्हॉट इज द मिनिंग ऑफ लाईफ? व्हॉट इज द डेफिनेशन ऑफ लाईफ? व्हॉट इज मीन बाय लाईफ? सो व्हॉट इज द सिंपल डेफिनेशन ऑफ लाईफ? व्हॉट इज द simple definition or biological definition of life? So we have seen living means any object which has life, we call it as living. So what is the definition of life? So basically life है, it is the organization of molecule. Life is nothing but it is the organization of molecules. Life basically काय आहे? Different molecules चं काय आहे? Organization आहे. Molecules कसे असायला हवे? That is unique and complex. So basically life है युनिक अँड कॉम्प्लेक्स मॉलिक्यूलचं ऑर्गनायझेशन आहे की जे मॉलिक्यूल स्वतःला एक्सप्रेस करतात थ्रू डिफरंट केमिकल रिॲक्शन्स. जे मॉलिक्यूल स्वतःला काय करतात? एक्सप्रेस करतात थ्रू द डिफरंट केमिकल रिॲक्शन, दॅट इज मेटाबॉलिक रिॲक्शन. सो ते मॉलिक्यूल स्वतःला काय करत असतात? एक्सप्रेस करत असतात थ्रू डिफरंट केमिकल रिॲक्शन. In life we called it as metabolic reaction, which leads to the different characteristics of life or different properties of the life, that is growth, reproduction, consciousness, responsiveness, etc. Okay, so what is life? Life is nothing but the unique and complex organization of molecule. Life हे unique and complex molecule चं काय आहे? ऑर्गनायझेशन आहे की जे मॉलिक्यूल स्वतःला एक्सप्रेस करतात through the different chemical reaction, we called it as metabolic reactions, which leads to the की ज्यामुळे लाईफचे डिफरंट कॅरेक्टर आपल्याला बघायला मिळतात, जसे की ग्रोथ, रिप्रोडक्शन, रिस्पॉन्सिव्हनेस, एक्सेट्रा. So what is the definition of life? We have seen life is nothing but it is a unique and complex organization of molecules which express through the different chemical reaction which leads to the different characteristics of life such as growth, development, responsiveness, adaptation and reproduction. So this is a simple biological definition of life. Next. So we have seen that what is meant by living? Living means any object which has life, we call it as living. Then what is meant by living organism? आपण लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम कशाला म्हणायचं? व्हॉट इज मीन बाय लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम? सो लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम, इट इज अ सिंपल डेफिनेशन ऑफ लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम इज इट इज अ सेल्फ रिप्लिकेटिंग. सेल्फ रिप्लिकेटिंग मीन्स व्हॉट? दे प्रोड्युसेस देअर ऑफस्प्रिंग्स. इव्हॉल्विंग, इव्हॉल्विंग मीन्स व्हॉट? they shows the properties of growth. Self regulating, self regulating means what? They regulate themselves, that is they shows the different metabolic reaction and responding to the external stimuli. Responding to the external stimuli means what is the definition of living organism? Living organism, it is nothing but it is the interactive system of self replicating, evolving and self regulating which respond to the external stimuli. We called it as living organism. Now, so we have seen the definition of living, we have seen the definition of life. So life is nothing but it is a unique and complex organization of molecule which express through the different chemical reaction which leads to the different characteristics of life such as growth, reproduction, metabolism, cellular organization and consciousness. So together we call it as the properties of life or characteristics of life. So what are the properties of life? So properties of life are nothing but the growth, reproduction. Growth means what? Reproduction. Reproduction means living organism produces offsprings. So this is the reproduction. What is metabolism? Metabolism is nothing but the different chemical reaction taking place in the body of the living organism constitute the metabolic reaction. Cellular organization means what? All living organisms are made up of cell. And consciousness, consciousness is what? Awareness of the surrounding. So we discuss all these properties one by one. The first property is growth. Growth. So what is meant by growth? So growth is nothing but the growth is occurred basically by two methods: by increasing the number of the cell, by increasing the number of the cell and mass of the cell. ग्रोथ दोन प्रोसेसने होत असते, आयदर बाय इंक्रीजिंग द नंबर ऑफ द सेल, सेलचा नंबर वाढत असतो, और बाय इंक्रीजिंग द मास ऑफ द सेल बाय द प्रोसेस ऑफ सेल डिव्हिजन. सो दिस वन सेल गेट्स कन्वर्टेड इनटू द टू सेल like this. So growth basically occurs by two methods: by increasing the number of cell or by increasing the mass of the cell. In plant, growth occurs continuously throughout their life. Plant मध्ये growth ही continuous होत असते. While in animal, growth occurs only up to the certain age. Basically plant जे असतात, plant मध्ये growth जी असते ही continuous throughout their life होत असते. आणि जे animal असतात त्यामध्ये ग्रोथ ही सर्टन एज पर्यंत होत असते, परंतु सेल डिव्हिजन जे होत असते टू रिप्लेस द लॉस सेल्स कंटिन्युअस इन लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम और इन ॲनिमल्स. बेसिकली जे प्लांट असतात, प्लांटमध्ये ग्रोथ ही इट इज अ कंटिन्युअस प्रोसेस. इन प्लांट ग्रोथ इज अ कंटिन्युअस प्रोसेस, व्हाईल इन ॲनिमल्स ग्रोथ ऑकर्स ओनली अप टू द सर्टन एज. बट देर इज अ सेल डिव्हिजन ऑकर्स कंटिन्युअसली टू रिप्लेस द लॉस सेल इन ॲनिमल. म्हणजे प्लांटमध्ये जी ग्रोथ होत असते इट इज अ कंटिन्युअस प्रोसेस थ्रू आउट देअर लाईफ, पण ॲनिमलमध्ये ग्रोथ इज फक्त सर्टन एजपर्यंत होत असते, परंतु सेल डिव्हिजन ही कंटिन्युअस प्रोसेस आहे ॲनिमलमध्ये टू रिप्लेस द लॉस सेल. सो बेसिकली ग्रोथ इज नथिंग बट द इंक्रीज इन मास अँड साईज. इन नॉन लिव्हिंग थिंग्स और नॉन लिव्हिंग ऑब्जेक्ट ऑल्सो शोज द ग्रोथ, दॅट इज एक्सटर्नल ग्रोथ ड्यू टू द अकोमुलेशन ऑफ सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ मटेरियल ऑन द सरफेस. ग्रोथ लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम ग्रोथ कशी होत असते, इंटरनली होत असते ड्यू टू द इंक्रीज इन नंबर अँड मास ऑफ द सेल. पण जे नॉन लिव्हिंग थिंग्स आहे जसं की माउंटन आहे, बिल्डिंग्स आहे, यामध्ये पण ग्रोथ होत असते बाय ड्यू टू द अकोमुलेशन ऑफ सिमिलर काइंड ऑफ मटेरियल ऑन देअर सरफेस. सो ग्रोथ इज नॉट अ डिफाइनिंग कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम. सो ग्रोथ इज नॉट द डिफाइनिंग कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम. इन लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम ग्रोथ इज इनसाइड. in living organism, growth is inside or growth is the internal phenomena. In living organism, growth occurs from inside, while in non-living things such as mountains, growth occurs due to the accumulation of material on their surface. So it is a external growth, or we can say that internal growth is the defining characteristics of living organism. We can say that internal growth is the defining characteristics of living organism. ओके, म्हणजे ग्रोथ इज नॉट द डिफायनिंग कॅरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम, कारण ग्रोथ हे नॉन लिव्हिंग ऑब्जेक्टमध्ये पण ग्रोथ होत असते ड्यू टू द अकोम्युलेशन ऑफ मटेरियल ऑन देअर सरफेस. पण नॉन लिव्हिंग थिंग्समध्ये जी ग्रोथ होत असते बेसिकली इट इज द surface phenomenon or is the external growth due to the accumulation of similar kind of material on their surface. So growth is not the defining characteristics of living organism, but internal growth, that is growth from the inside, is the defining characteristics of living organism. Okay, next. So next characteristics is reproduction. So what is my reproduction? Reproduction is nothing but the production, it is a process by which living organism produces offsprings. So organism reproduce sexually or asexually. There are two types of reproduction, that is sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. In upcoming chapters we will discuss in details. In unicellular organism, growth and reproduction are same because they reproduce by the cell division. जो unicellular organism आहे त्यामध्ये growth and reproduction same आहे because growth and reproduction both occurs by same process, that is the cell division. Many organisms do not reproduce. असे पण काही ऑर्गॅनिझम आहे, reproduction is the characteristics of living organism, but there are some exception, that is moles, worker bees, infertile human couple do not reproduce, but still they are living. Means whatever moles, worker bees and infertile human couples, they do not show the process of reproduction since still they are living. Hence reproduction is not the mandatory or exclusive or not a perfect defining property of living organism. So reproduction is the characteristics of living organism. All living organisms shows the reproduction, but some exceptions are there. For example, moles, worker bees and infertile human couples. So moles, worker bees and infertile human couple reproduction process दाखवत नाही, still they are living. That means reproduction is not the defining characteristics of living organism. Clear? Okay. Now metabolism. What is meant by metabolism? So whatever chemical reaction taking place in the cell or body of living organism, we call it as metabolic reaction. There are two types of metabolic reaction, that is catabolism and anabolism. Together constitute the metabolic reaction. So what is meant by catabolism? That is breaking down of the molecule into the number of molecule. We call it as catabolic reaction. That is it is a breakdown process. Or what is anabolism? Anabolism means number of molecules come together and form the one single molecule. Just 1 minute. So catabolism means one molecule break down into the number of molecule, that is called as catabolism. And anabolism means number of molecule come together and form the one large molecule, that is called as anabolism. So metabolism is nothing but it is a catabolism plus anabolism. So what is metabolism? Whatever chemical reaction taking place in the cell or body of living organism, that may be the catabolic reaction, that is breakdown reaction, or anabolic reaction, that is building up reaction. Together we called it as metabolic reaction or metabolism. So what is metabolism? It is a sum total of all biochemical reaction taking place inside the living system. So metabolism is the property of living organism. Metabolism is not shown by any non-living things. सो मेटाबॉलिक कोणताही नॉन लिव्हिंग थिंग्स मेटाबॉलिझम दाखवत नाही. सो मेटाबॉलिझम इज अ डिफायनिंग फीचर्स ऑफ लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम. Metabolic reaction can be demonstrated outside the body in a cell-free system. So लॅबोरेटरीमध्ये सुद्धा आपण टेस्ट ट्यूबमध्ये मेटाबॉलिक रिॲक्शन घडवून आणू शकतो. सो आयसोलेटेड मेटाबॉलिक रिॲक्शन इन व्हिट्रो आर नॉट लिव्हिंग बट दे आर लिव्हिंग रिॲक्शन. और वी कॅन से दॅट मेटाबॉलिक रिॲक्शन आउटसाइड द लिव्हिंग बॉडी और आउटसाइड द सेल is not the living thing. Reactions are living, but reactions are living. Just 1 minute. So isolated metabolic reaction in vitro are not living, but they are living reaction. So we can say that metabolic reaction inside the cell is the defining characteristics of living organism. So metabolism is not the purely defining characteristics of living organism, because metabolic reaction can be demonstrated in the test tube in the laboratory. So metabolism is not the defining characteristics of living organism, but metabolic reaction inside the cell is the defining characteristics of living organism. Now all living organisms are made up of cell. All living organisms, they may be the plants, animals, bacteria, whatever, they are made up of cell. So all living organisms shows the cellular organization. That may be the unicellular or that may be the multicellular. So all living organisms shows the cellular organization, but cellular organization is not present in the non-living things. So कोणताही लिव्हिंग ऑब्जेक्ट यामध्ये सेल्युलर ऑर्गनायझेशन असतं, परंतु नॉन लिव्हिंग थिंग्स सेल्युलर ऑर्गनायझेशन दाखवत नाही. सो सेल्युलर ऑर्गनायझेशन इज द डिफायनिंग फीचर्स ऑफ लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम. Now, consciousness. What is my consciousness? It is the ability of the organism to sense their environment and respond to the external stimuli. Means living organism sense their environment. Living organisms sense their environment or they feel their environment and also responds to the external stimuli from the environment. म्हणजे जे काही लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम आहे ते एन्व्हायरमेंट फील करतात, सेन्स करतात, त्याचबरोबर एन्व्हायरमेंटकडून येणारा जो काही स्टिम्युलस असेल त्याला ते काय करतात, रिस्पॉन्ड करतात. सो ते रिस्पॉन्ड टू एक्सटर्नल स्टिम्युलाय. फॉर एक्झाम्पल लाईट, वॉटर, टेम्परेचर, अदर ऑर्गॅनिझम, केमिकल, पोल्युटंट्स. सो जे काही स्टिम्युलस असतील त्याचा एक्सटर्नल स्टिम्युलाय, दॅट इज लाईट, वॉटर, टेम्परेचर, अदर ऑर्गॅनिझम, केमिकल्स अँड पोल्युटंट्स. Means living organisms sense their environment as well as they respond to the external stimuli which is coming from the environment. So this is the characteristics of living organism. Now all organisms aware of their surrounding. So it is a defining characteristics of living organism. जे पण लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम आहे त्यांना आपल्या सराउंडिंगबद्दल ज्ञान असतं. सो दे अवेअर ऑफ देअर सराउंडिंग. सो इट इज अ डिफायनिंग प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ लिव्हिंग ऑर्गॅनिझम. Now human is the only organism having the self consciousness. Self consciousness means what? That is the awareness of himself or herself. स्वतःबद्दलचा अवेअरनेस जो आहे that is the self consciousness. Human is the only living organism. Human is the only living organism having the self consciousness. So what you have seen, that is growth, reproduction, metabolism, cellular organization and consciousness. These are the properties of living organism. Out of these, first one is the growth. That is growth is not the defining characteristics of living organism. Growth is not the defining characteristics of living organism, but internal growth is the defining characteristics of living organism. Reproduction is the characteristics of living organism, but it is not the defining characteristics of living organism, because some animal, that is moles, worker bees or infertile couple, do not reproduce, still they are living. That means reproduction is not the exclusive character or defining characteristics of living organism. Now metabolism, that is metabolism is whatever chemical reaction taking place in the body of the living organism, we call it as metabolic reaction. So metabolic reaction can be takes place in the test tube in the laboratory. So metabolism is not the purely defining characteristics of living organism, but metabolic reaction inside the cell is the defining characteristics of living organism. Now cellular organization, that is all living organisms are made up of cell. So cellular organization is the defining characteristics of living organism. And next one is the consciousness, that is aware of their surrounding. So all living organisms are aware of their surroundings. So it is the defining characteristics of living organism. Thank you.